Welcome to the channel. I, Elazareth, was sent here to tell the stories that have been erased, overlooked, and dismissed in history of time. No story is irrelevant, big or small. Pull up a chair and sit a spell, because today we're talking about a piece of history that the mud of the Mobile River tried to swallow whole. Now, if you open up any standard regular-ass school textbook, they'll tell you that the international slave trade to America completely shut down in 1808. They'll make it sound like the law put a neat little bow on that horror story. And that was that. But down here in the sticks, in the deep county woods of Alabama, things didn't always go by the book. You know how them folks is. But shit anyhow. In the spring of 1860, a wealthy, arrogant Mobile plantation owner and steamboat captain cracker named Timothy Meagher stood on a deck, looked across the water, and made a bet that defied the entire United States government. He'd bet a clean $100,000 that he could smuggle in, which we would call in today's terms, human trafficking, a whole shipload of captured human souls right past the federal authorities under the cover of night. He won that wicked-ass bet, too. He brought him in on a sleek schooner called the Clotilda, and to wipe away the evidence of his hanging crime, he dragged that ship into the dark bayous, set her ablaze, and watched her burn down to the waterline. He scattered those survivors across the fields, thinking he'd broken their spirits and bought their silence forever. But old Meagher severely miscalculated who he was fucking with, because just 5 short years later, the Civil War ended, and those survivors found themselves free in a country that hated every breath of air they consumed. What they did next wasn't just a survival story. It was a masterclass in economic warfare, unshakable dignity, and the building of a secret, self-governing kingdom right under their captor's nose. I'm Elazareth, and this is the staggering, untold chronicle of the Clotilda's secret underground kingdom, Africatown. To understand the miracle of what happened on the shores of Mobile, we've got to understand the people who stepped off that burning ship. These weren't folks who had been seasoned by generations of plantation labor. They was built a little different. They were proud, independent people from the Kingdom of Dahomey and the Yoruba lands of West Africa. They knew exactly who they were. They remembered the names of their ancestors, the layout of their home villages, and the taste of free soil. When Timothy Meagher's hired captain, William Foster, sneaked them into Grand Bay in July of 1860, he divided them up like cattle. Some went to the Meagher plantations, others were sold upriver. For 5 years, they endured the absolute worst of Southern chattel slavery. They worked the lumber mills, the steamships, and the fields under the blistering Alabama sun. But they did something the planters didn't expect. They stuck together like glue. They used a shared language, communicated in whispers across the rows, and looked out for one another like an army behind enemy lines. Exactly what we need to do in these days and time. And then, in 1865, the world turned upside down. The Union soldiers marched into Mobile. The chains were legally shattered. But as the dust settled, these 110 survivors looked around and realized they were completely stranded. They had no money, no land, no way to get back across the massive Atlantic Ocean, and no government willing to help them. Most folks would have broken, but the Clotilda survivors didn't look for a handout. They looked to each other. Now, this is where the story takes a turn that'll make the hair on your arms stand up. These survivors wanted to go home to Africa so bad it hurt. They worked every odd job they could find: sawmills, brickyards, powder mills, saving every single solitary copper coin they earned. They realized real quick that the cost of a ship back across the ocean was too high, so they made a radical pivot. They decided if they couldn't go back to Africa, they would build Africa right here in the heart of Alabama. And who do you think they marched up to get the land? None other than Timothy Meagher himself, the very same cracker who had stolen them away from their homes in chains. Led by a brilliant, it's always the soft-spoken guy yet iron-willed man named Oluwole Kusala, whom the locals called Cudjoe Lewis. They walked right onto Meher's property. Cudjoe looked his former captor dead in the eye and demanded he sell them the land. Meher, probably thinking these niggas crazy, initially refused. He laughed in their faces. But the survivors didn't take no for an answer. Wasn't nobody playing but him, you see? 'Cause they didn't beg and they didn't riot. They used economic leverage. They brought cash money, hard-earned, pooled capital from years of back-breaking post-war labor. They kept coming back, dollar after dollar, acre after acre, until they forced the Meher family to sell them hundreds of acres of land in northern Mobile. Think about the poetic justice of that for a minute. They bought out their own captor, took his property, and turned his stolen fields into the foundation of their own independent empire. By the 1870s, that land became a bustling, self-sustaining kingdom known as Africatown. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a regular old southern neighborhood. This was a sovereign enclave operating right inside the state of Alabama. They built their own houses, planted their own crops, and established their own schools. But the most incredible part? They completely rejected the white legal system of Jim Crow. They set up their own independent governance. They appointed a man named Charlie Lewis as their chief, and they established a council of elders to settle disputes based on traditional West African customary law. If you had a problem in Africatown, you didn't call the Mobile police. You went before the elders. They spoke their native regional languages in the streets, kept their spiritual customs alive, and built a sanctuary where black dignity was absolute and untainted by the segregation laws outside its borders. They even built the old landmark Baptist church, which doubled as a schoolhouse where they taught their children the history of the ship, making sure the lineage of the Clotilda would never be wiped out from the face of the earth. While the white elite of Mobile were passing laws to keep black people subservient, the citizens of Africatown were living as free, self-governed African royalty on their own terms. For over a century, the story of the Clotilda was treated like an urban legend down here, a ghost story whispered by locals, but denied by the descendants of the wealthy elites who wanted to hide their crimes. But you can't keep the truth buried in the mud forever. In recent years, maritime archaeologists went down into the dark, murky waters of the Mobile River and found her. The physical remains of the Clotilda, preserved perfectly by the Alabama mud, proving every single word the elders passed down was the absolute truth. But the real monument isn't that sunken ship rotting in the riverbed. The real monument is the soil of Africatown. It stands as a timeless testament to what happens when a group of people refuse to let their circumstances dictate their destiny. They were captured, but never conquered. They were enslaved, but they remained kings and queens in their minds. Timothy Meher tried to burn the evidence of his crime, but instead, he accidentally planted the seeds of an unbreakable kingdom. Next time on the Elazareth Show, more Alabama Chronicles, we're going deep into the rural stretches of the Black Belt to look at the Night Riders, the heavily armed black self-defense groups who quietly picked up Winchester rifles to police their own communities when the law refused to protect them.
This was the route of the Clotilda. It arrived in Mobile Bay in 1860. In 2019, its final resting place was found, preserved in the mud of the Mobile River.
Thanks for checking out the channel, like and subscribe, and please share this video, would surely be appreciated. See you in the next video.